Good morning, everyone. This is your Coach Renz, and I want to thank you for taking this opportunity to join me as we have this discussion concerning the soul. Soul or spirit? What is it? Where does it come from? What are we supposed to do with it? And where does it go? There are many questions that we tend to ask concerning the soul. So let's take a few minutes to break it down as far as we possibly can. And before we get started, I want to thank everyone who subscribes to the YouTube channel. I want to thank everyone who's watching this on other mediums, but please come over to the YouTube channel, subscribe, hit the bell icon so that you'll get notifications of when I do live events and when the next video drops. So I appreciate you all being here. And for those who support the channel through Patreon, thank you. Those who are members of this channel, of the YouTube channel, which I just now beginning, I thank you for becoming a member of my YouTube channel. And for those who support by shopping at Uncle Ren's Popcorn, letter U, the letter C, letter U, letter R, the word popcorn.com. Appreciate it so greatly. So we're talking about the soul today, the soul and the spirit. Now, for many people, you're either going to come from a Abrahamic religion, which is your Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, or a variation of any of those, or you're going to come from the Eastern philosophies of Buddhism, Hinduism, Jainism, Taoism, Confucianism, any of those, or a shamanic approach, or you're going to come from a African ancestral approach. So, what do we talk about? What do we say concerning the soul? Here's the thing. I'm going to start out with something from the Quran. In the Quran, 1785, it says that, and they ask about the soul, the spirit actually. The word translates spirit. They asked about the spirit. Say, and this is what Allah is telling Muhammad to say, the spirit is of the affairs of my Lord, and mankind has not been given of knowledge except a little. So, what Allah said to Muhammad is that when they ask you about the spirit, let them know that it is of the affairs of Allah, and mankind has been given knowledge, but just a little bit. Hence why we argue so much. Hence why we have so many different varying beliefs. But there is a commonality within it all. What I've discovered over the years, decades of studying, is that most religions consider the soul and the spirit one and the same. Although there are groups that will say that the soul is different from the spirit, because we have in the Christian Bible, there is in, I believe, Mark, Paul. I know Paul said, so it's not in Mark. Paul said that the sword, that double-edged sword that can separate between soul and spirit. So people take that as a separation. Although the words ruach and nefesh, which nefesh is soul, ruach is spirit, is used throughout the entire Old Testament interchangeably. If you look at everything around it, it is talking about the same thing. Some have a separation of the two. There is a difference in many aspects of that. Where does it come from? Let's start there. Many say that the spirit, and I'm just going to use the terms, I'm using spirit and soul interchangeably, so just take them as the same for as far as this conversation. Many will say that the spirit comes at the moment of conception. That when the egg meets sperm, boom, spirit, soul is created. Some will also debate that the soul, the spirit, is pre-existing. That at the creation of the universe, every soul was created. And then there are those that say that the moment of consciousness, so somewhere in that fetal time frame of consciousness, is is when the soul comes about. Now, in the conception version, that is the soul coming from the parents, which would attend to the Akashic record. But for those who say at the moment of consciousness, that is the delivering of a soul. There was actually a old Catholic story. I don't know if it's still taught, but an old Catholic story used to say that in heaven, that there is a gulf, and this gulf holds all the souls that were created in the beginning, so pre-existence creation, and that these souls descend upon the moment of a baby popping out. That's when the soul is delivered to the baby, and so man becomes a living soul at that moment. They even cite it as sparrows bringing the soul down to the baby, to the born baby. This was one of their ways of explaining, child death at birth. Is that there was no soul present, so the child could not live. And there was a movie with, I forget her name right now, but it was. I love the movie because there was a character called Casca in it, which is the Roman soldier who supposedly saw Jesus being crucified. He was the soldier that pierced Jesus in the side, according to the story. And the blood got in his mouth, and he lives forever. He's cursed to roam the earth until Jesus returns. There was a movie, oh man, and I keep thinking Sigourney Weaver, but it's not Sigourney Weaver. It's, she played in, and you guys are gonna tell me in the comments, I know, but she played in the Indecent Proposal movie, Blue Lagoon, when she was a Navy SEAL, striptease. I cannot think of her name to save my life right now, but she was in this movie that I loved. I loved the movie because it explored the concept of the Gulf of Casca, and then my point is a baby was born, like Jesus was returning, and all these cataclysmic things were happening. You had the signs of the seas turning red, and the point is at the end. She had been, and it's interesting because it shows kind of a reincarnation as well. So there's a lot going on in this movie, that she was present at the time frame when Jesus was being beaten by the Roman soldier who winds up being Casca, and the Casca was asking her at that moment, will you die for him? Will you die for him in this ancient Roman time? And she was like, nah, she was afraid and she ran. So here she is reincarnated into our time frame, and I think it's called the seventh sign or the seventh seal. The seventh seal, I believe is what it's called. She comes, and now she's pregnant. She's going through all this. She's attempted suicide before. She has very little faith. She's going on this journey. There's this little Jewish young man who's recording everything and helping her find out information. They're going to see Jewish rabbis, and so the seas are turning red, the sky turns as black as sackcloth. All these kind of things are happening, and then when she's about to give baby, she's about to lose the baby again. The baby is born stillbirth because there are no more souls in the Gulf. And then she goes flash back and forth. Will you die for him? Will you die for him? And Casca wants her to say no again so that he can end his suffering. And she touches the baby and says yes. She's saying, yes, I will die for him. Yes, I will die for him. So she gives up her soul to her baby soul. And then the Gulf is filled with souls again. It was an interesting movie. There are some movies out there that explore these concepts that I think are very intriguing. So check that movie out. Just went way off on a tangent with that one, but it's all right. So the soul, she was able to give her soul. Now we know that's Hollywood, but it shows the influence of religions on our state of mind and how we function. Where does the soul come from? Was it created in the beginning? Was it created with all other creation? Or did the soul come about in man when in Genesis it says that first on the sixth day that man and woman were created and told them to be fruitful, multiply, and replenish the earth. And then it is not to chapter 2 that it says that, God had rested on the seventh day. He did not cause it to rain. So we know in our science today that if it does not rain on the whole of the earth for however long that day was, that everything on the planet would die. So whatever was created before would then die off. So if you go chapter for chapter and don't look at it as a metaphor, but if you are a literalist on this one, then it is on the second chapter where he calls a mist to come up, waters the earth. Adam and Eve come, he creates Adam, and he breathed the ruach into Adam, and man became a living soul. I always found that interesting. So the men and women that were created before were not living souls, but this version of man is now a living soul. Now, if you read the Sumerian story, you will see that a bit differently. But in this version, man becomes a living soul. This is different between the E text and the J text. Which is just different tribes writing about the same thing, but a different way of telling the story. One anthropomorphized God, the other God is this spatial entity. So depends on how you want to look at it. It's two stories written by two different people, but telling the same story. So it'd be like you and I both telling the story of Cinderella, but I'm telling my version, you tell your version. So, but if you take it literally to mean that this is what happened in the 6 days of creation, God took a rest and everything died off. So there was no man around to till the soil, as they say. Then here is God recreating, again, but this time I'm gonna start with one person, put him in the garden, and the first time none of the animals have names, but now I'm gonna let him name all the animals. So he's gonna name everything and then find him alone. But we're talking about the soul here. But it is at that one that man became a living soul, a living spirit, actually, to use a ruach. So when did it happen? Does it happen at conception? Well, if you go with God gives man a soul at the moment of birth, then it would be because of the ruach was breathed into man at the moment of an enlightened moment, that the moment that man became conscious, which is why that is a thought process. If it is already pre-created, pre-existing, then the souls were already in heaven. So I then have to ask the question, what did the souls do so bad that they had to come down to earth and deal with us? What did my soul do beforehand while it was in heaven that it had to come down? I mean, many teachers said that in heaven there can be no evil. There's nothing evil in heaven. But we do know the Job story talks about how, this adversary, Satan, is going from heaven to earth, from heaven to earth. The Enoch story talks about how there was a war in heaven, and that the spirit of the angels who fought against were cast down to earth. So are we the souls of those fallen angels? Although the Enoch story talks about those fallen angels who became watchers, some good, some bad. I did a video previous to this called on demonology. You can go there for more information concerning that, of how they became demons. But were these souls pre-existing? And if they are, then we have to say that they have been migrating to earth one at a time, or 1,000 at a time, however many births happen. But we know that there are more people on the planet today than there were on the planet 5,000, 6,000 years ago, 20,000 years ago. There's way more people on the planet now. So where did all these souls come from? Were they sitting in heaven waiting their turn to come down to earth to prove that they were valuable enough to stay in heaven? Where did they come from? This is a bold question to try to ask. I repeat, and they ask you, O Muhammad, about the spirit. Say, the spirit is of the affairs of my Lord, and mankind has not been given of knowledge except a little. So where does it come from? We don't know. To be honest, we don't. Many of the anti-abortionists proclaim that the soul comes at conception in order to push their agenda of anti-abortion. Those who are for abortion say that the soul doesn't come into existence until the baby is born or the fetus gains consciousness. We switch it, we determine it based on our political agendas. So where does the soul come from? The answer, we don't know. There's an electrical charge in our body. We don't know where it comes from. We don't know how it's generated. We don't know. There are those who believe that the soul exists in the breath. If you go to some of the the shamanic beliefs, then the soul is within the breath, which is why they taught and still teach that It's the moment of the cessation of breath that the soul leaves the body. Therefore, it is only at the moment of gaining breath that the soul enters the body. So when the baby comes out of the mother's womb, clear out his mouth, and sometimes they pat him on the back well, back in the day, I don't know if they still do it. Pat him on the back or clear the mouth out or suck it out, whatever they do today. The moment the baby starts breathing, his soul enters his body. So, when and where is the soul? We don't know. We don't know. Does the soul reincarnate? Is the reason why there are almost 8 billion souls on the planet right now, 8 billion spirits on the planet right now, is it the reincarnation of a soul? But yet that won't do. Because if it was a reincarnation of the soul, but yet in the Eastern philosophy, which would call the Atman is the soul that has became free, that has liberated itself from the ills of being trapped in the body. And when I say trapped in the body, one of my favorite books, The Gospel of Thomas, it talks about how woeful it is that something as amazing as the soul has come to rest in the poverty of the body. The poverty of the body. I have to say that in order to go into this next part. How the something amazing, the soul, has come into this poverty of the body. That if the soul came in existence for the body, then it's a shame. But if the body came into existence because of the soul, then that's all right. But the soul, the spirit, is of much higher magnification and much higher glory than the body. And in that, the Atman is the soul that you want to become. Becoming liberated from the body. Becoming liberated from the ills of humanity. Becoming liberated from what the in Christian teachings and Abrahamic teachings, I should say, that earth became hell. That when the angels fought against the Creator in the book of Enoch, that hell became earth. They were cast down to earth. So this is hell. Just even though it says the kingdom of God is all around you, both good and evil. So duality. They talk about the yin and the yang. Some say the soul, there are two souls in you, the yin and the yang, the good one and the bad one, the two different types ones. The one that's more earthly, the one that's more spiritual. So we have this idea of the Atman, the soul that is within you that is to develop. And if reincarnation was working, then the Atman would leave gaps. So the population should decrease. That all souls should reincarnate, and then the population should decrease by the number of those who reach Atman, who reconnect with the Creator, back into the Brahman, back into the way. We should lose numbers of people. And which would, if that was happening, it would make all of this a little bit easier, because then we would have some evidential thing we can point to and say, wait, no matter how many, there's 8 billion people on the planet, and the number seems to be sustaining at 8 billion, but yet every year it decreases instead of increases. Why is it decreasing instead of increasing? If we're reincarnated, it would stay the same, 8 billion. But no, it's 7,999,999. The one person reached Atman, and so we're less. And then time continues, and we're less again. Then it will point to a way of why are we lessening in the number of people. First, of course, we would look, is there a disease? Is there some issue? But we see that babies are born. So, we know that babies are born. So what's causing this decrease in population? And it keeps decreasing. Over the history of man, it is decreasing. So we would have started with 8 billion, 20,000 years ago, and we'd be now down to like 7 million. So this decrease would have been understood over the length of time, and the Atman idea would be correct, and we would have much more unity on the planet. How do we get to that enlightened state? And that is what becoming the Atman is developing your soul, your spirit. We're going to get back to that a little bit later. In about 5 minutes. We're going to get back to that. But again, I say, and they ask you, O Muhammad, about the spirit. Say the spirit is of the affairs of the Lord, and mankind has not been given knowledge except a little. We don't know also where the soul goes at the moment breath leaves us. See, the way that many say that breath comes in, breath goes out. Breath is the coming in of the soul. Breath is the leaving of the soul, the spirit, whichever one you want to use. When we look at it from that point of view, we say, where does it go? Well, some teach soul sleep. That the soul doesn't separate itself from the body until the return and the end of it all, and judgment day happens. And then that's when the soul, the seas will give up their dead, and the seas will give up their souls, and the graves will give up their souls, and everybody will be judged. So some look at soul sleep. Some say that the souls are wandering the earth separate from the body, but wandering the earth waiting for that time frame of either to solve an issue, or they still holding on to something and they just can't let go of this reality, or they are waiting for the grand day of revelations to happen, of judgment, I should say, not revelation. They wait, because revelation is to realize, to be awakened, but they're waiting for that to happen. Well, I guess they are awakened in a sense. So they're waiting for that to happen. Some will teach that you go immediately. These are the people you will hear say that, oh, my grandparents, my mom, they're in heaven right now watching over me. And they'll also use that to say that, well, in heaven, there is no concept of time, but yet in heaven, you can look down and see the concept of time of earth, because you can see what's going on, even though the story is already written. But if there's no concept of time, then my grandmother, who's in heaven right now, I would already be there with her, because she's existing in a space where there is no time and everything has already happened. So my soul will be there. So why would she look down on earth to see my soul, unless she, being in that higher realm, understands that I am currently living but eventually will get there. So her interaction is really just to lead me to get there. That work? Yeah, that works. So we don't know. We say to say that they're already in heaven is a feel good thing. It feels good. It makes you feel comfortable. It's really about you, not so much about them. I had people lie at my father's funeral about what he believed when 2 days before he passed on. He was very clear to me as to what he believed. But people will say things like that to make themselves and other people feel better. So when we ask the question, where does the soul go? Scientifically, they say that when the body dies, that the body automatically loses like a certain amount of weight. I can't remember exactly what that weight is. Put it in the description. That would let me know you watched it to this point. Some say that's the spirit leaving. And when they account for the amount of waste in the body, the fluid that leaves the body, the whole thing, they say there's another like weightage that leaves the body that science can't explain. Some say that's the spirit, the soul leaving the body. But here's something that they all say. And from the Kybalion, we take that the all is in all, but yet all are not the all. That everything in creation was created in the mental image of the all. And so that everything has existed from eon to eon, but not existed in its current form. That change is a constant of the universe. So although the essence of what is your soul, your consciousness, and I skipped that part, but in all, the soul also relates to the psyche, your consciousness, the inner dwelling of you, the true self of you. Your Atman is your true self. Your soul, your spirit is the true who you are. It is you not being willed by the poverty of the flesh, but the flesh being willed by the true you, the spirit. Your spirit is the thing that was made in the image of, that is like the creator. So when the all is in all, but all are not the all, meaning that we are all within the creator, but we are not the creator, but we're made in that same likeness, in that we can create mental imagery that we then manifest into our reality. So our soul spirit does the exact same thing that the creator does. So we are part of, we are all within, and our goal should be and to strive to become the greater version of that, to get in the flow of the way, as the Tao would say, that the more we understand how the universe works and we get into the flow of the universe, then we become more we gain the Buddha head, we gain the Christ mind, and we become what the people will say as an ascended master. We shake off all of this. We shake off our jealousies. You see, when people say that the creator is jealous, the creator is angry, the creator, that's saying that these emotions are overpowering or strong, or have this influence over the creator. But that won't do, because the creator cannot be influenced nor controlled by anything outside of itself. Nothing can push it, control it, command it. So for us, it is the goal to become like that, where we are not moved by our emotions. We are not moved by what other people say and do. We are not moved by how society has decided it's going to be. We're not moved by following along like everybody else. We become more like the creator in becoming our Atman, becoming our true self, becoming the spirit and not the body. That whether souls are created, and personally, because there's always an increase, and I believe that every person, everything on the planet has a soul spirit. Every living thing has that. Every atom, every molecule has a spirit about it, because it moves and acts in a way for its level of consciousness. It is repelled, it is attracted to different things, it has its likes and dislikes. Everything has a soul, everything has a spirit. We are all looking to become greater versions of that. I believe that my spirit soul has been carried through every generation that has created me, this body. That the soul, a part of the soul, the spirit of all my ancestors dwell here, which creates this soul. That the universal process is not all the souls that are ever going to exist are created. Because then that would be finite, that would be Calvinistic, that would be everything is preordained. And since change is a constant of the universe, it can't be preordained. And because of the law of cause and effect, it can't be preordained. Because we don't know, there's an effect, there's a cause and there's an effect, and we don't know what's going to stimulate those causes or effects. So you are a amalgamation of all your ancestors. Your soul, your spirit is that. That's why we continue to increase. And as we increase, the goal is to become the Atman. For you to elevate and leave this consciousness, to never again return and dwell here, to dwell at a higher state of conscious mind, conscious thought, so that your spirit has rid itself of the poverty of this body, the poverty of the flesh, and now exist in a pure state where you can see things more purely. It's kind of like that person who, although they all are in the NBA, Dame Dollar got into a zone where he was out of body in how he played against the Mavericks the other night. Playing on the same court, doing the same thing, but at a totally different level. This is where we must go. And we must go there here so that we can be it there. Wherever there is, so that we can be it there. The goal, the Buddha is not a name, but a title. And the goal is to gain the Buddha mind, the state of Buddha. The Buddha is not a term just in Buddhism, but it's previously a term in Hinduism and Jainism, so they all understand the Atman, the growth, the development. That is our goal. That is what we should be doing. That is what I look to do every day, to become greater at knowing myself and becoming the greater version of myself. It is not without fault. It is not without setbacks. You will have those times, those moments where things, you give in to the emotional states, you give in to the environmental states. But it is your duty, your job, to push beyond that and to continue to grow. And know that the all is in all, but you are not the all. But your goal is to develop and gain that Christ mind, that Buddha head, to develop the Atman, and then ascend from the poverty of the body and into your next dimensional phase of true understanding of your true self. So have a great day. Remember, you have to free yourself to be yourself, because your greatness is non-negotiable. Good journey, good vibration.